Hello folks, welcome. It is Friday, we are getting on with some hobby nightmares today, and my god, do we have a long video for you today, or at least a video with a lot of stuff in it. Anyway, the three hobby nightmares we have today are all different, but all unique in their own way as well, and all, shall we say, action-packed with hobby goodness. So I made sure to select some good ones for today, because I know there have been at least once or twice this week where we've had sneaky little hobby nightmares that really shouldn't be here finding their way into the video. So this week we're going to end with a smorgasbord of goodness. So if you like what I do, the subscribe button is down below. The Patreon is also down below if you want to buy me a pint over this long weekend. And let's get on with it, shall we? Major says, oh, by the way, the footage in the background is, of course, Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, I recorded it the other night and I had a lot of fun. Towards the end of the actual footage that you're going to see, you will see a high hostage being unalived by a Mongol warlord with one touch, and it really made me salty. To the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to record tomorrow now. Anyway, moving on. Major said, "Hey North, my name is Major, or at least that's what a few close friends call me. I have a hobby nightmare, or rather, more along the lines of a funny joke the universe, or Zinch, decided to play on me, and I have a feeling it might give you a chuckle. First, however, a little background. I got into 40k back in mid-7th edition, thanks to a friend and co-worker yammering my ear off about it. Eventually, the lore began to intrigue me, and he showed me some Tyranid models, which he sold to me on the very cheap. The moment I saw a Morlock model, I was hooked. Because of it, I grew an addiction to plastic bugs, and he and I would play games, usually Tyranids versus Orcs. Oh dude, when that campaign kicked off, Tyranids versus Orcs, in the setting, you must have been overjoyed. It was very fun to slam a horde army into another one, and the big monsters would crush and blow up his trucks in a very satisfactory manner. He in turn had quite a bit of fun watching his own boys beat themselves to death for morale's sake, and rolling fistfuls of dice, on top of finally having a steady player to play with. Because of that, he often played at his apartment with some very poor hammer terrain. Cardboard buildings, overturned Tupperware, styrofoam rubble in buildings, the works. Dude, you don't realise how innocent and cool that is. You don't. That is that's awesome. I used to do that all the time. Man, it was a time of innocence and simplicity. And while it was fun, he mentioned a store we could go to that had proper terrain. The only catch is these tables had to be rented for $5 per session. However, the owner had a really cool system where he would give us a voucher for each table we rented, and we could use that $5 voucher on any item in his store, and you could cash in multiple vouchers at once. Now, I had a way to not only have fun and more proper games, but a way to fuel my new addiction in a slow and relatively reasonable manner. At that time, I had shifted from my swarm to my new and truest love, chaos. And when I say chaos, I mean all of chaos. Marines, demons, knights. Specifically, I gravitated towards the Black Legion, and they are still my favourite faction to this day, with the most models in my collection. Now North, do me a favour and take a sip of tea as we head into the nightmare. Okay, I will do. Now, this nightmare is a tournament, the only one I've attended to this day. Don't worry, I wasn't put off tournaments because of this nightmare. I just don't care to put in the effort to actively seek them out when I have a casual game or narrative to play. The tournament was held at the store I just told you about, and I decided I wanted to enter and win by going full force. Traitor's Hate had just come out, affording me some interesting formations, but I decided my Black Legion was too weak on its own, so I dipped into a very unconventional set of allies to shore up their weaknesses. That would be the Necrons, my currently second largest army. They were considered allies of convenience to Chaos Marines in 7th. At the time, I saved up for the start collecting Necron box set, a Night Side and 2 boxes of Lich Guard. In reality, I was using Chaos to shore up my Necrons, rather than vice versa. Okay. My plan was a sort of hammer and anvil style of attack, and abusing Chaos's greatest strength, summoning. My Chaos force consisted of a Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings and the Black Mace and 3 cultist blobs. Someone listening probably just shuddered remembering the Mace Prince of yore. Those cultist blobs were set to protect the 3 sorcerers I had brought in a formation, all of them rolling on the demonic table of powers. As for my Necrons, my Overlord and his guard were crammed into the scythe for an alpha strike, while 2 warrior units held the backfield with my cultists, and my Triarch Stalker popped tanks with extreme prejudice. This is just all... You know, to me, dude, this makes me feel dirty reading this. Necrons shouldn't be pairing with Chaos. Necrons are the main opponent of Chaos. Well, not the main opponent, but, you know, they are the antithesis of Chaos. They don't like Chaos. They actually want to wipe it out. The Pylons, they made them to keep Chaos away, you know? Anyway, doesn't matter. My first game went absolutely wonderfully and all according to plan. My opponent was a guard player, and he did as good as all good guard players did. Cram all of his vehicles in the corner and surround them with loyal sons of the Emperor. My sorcerers rolled on the table, and the one that didn't get the summons a free greater demon got the summons a herald power. As the game started, 2 of my sorcerers exploded into chunks of gore and summoned a Lord of Change and a Bloodthirster to the field, which immediately drew the guard player's attention. Why wouldn't they, of course? My 3rd sorcerer hurt himself to summon a Herald of Tzeentch, who rolled his own demon powers. You see where this is going, surely. The guard player panicked as my forces added a few extra 100 points to it at the cost of a few cheap sorcerers. His tanks hurt my new beasties, but failed to kill either, which made me very happy. This is just evil. When my turn came around again, my prince had hid his guardsmen, and my Night Scythe came in and deposited my Overlord right in by his tanks. My 3rd sorcerer chunked himself to summon another Herald, and those 2 had brought about a Great Unclean One and a 2nd Bloodthirster. With only a couple of turns, I had boxed in his units, and the Overlord and the Thirster began carving up his tanks, while my prince began to gleefully mash his men to a fine paste. I freely admit that the joy of seeing all of my plans to come together brought me great happiness, but I tried not to gloat about it. You better not. Such a dirty response. You better not. Anyway, it was only a game after all, and watching a plan come together always pleases me. Needless to say, I won that game by nearly tabling the guard player. When it was over, I shook his hand and complimented his models and how much I loved the design of his lemon russes. It seemed to brighten him a bit, and we chatted for a bit, amicably, until I played my 2nd game. Okay. For the 2nd, I admit, I don't remember it very much because it was overshadowed by the 3rd in my mind, but I do remember it was against a very tough Blood Angels army. I won that game too, and my ego was inflating to new heights. I felt my army was truly unstoppable. There wasn't an army that could stop me, save for maybe the Tau or Eldar, neither of which were present at the current tournament. Okay, alright, okay. Aren't you a lucky boy? For my 3rd game, I played a Space Wolf player, and he was rocking several units of the brand new Wolfen. Why am I cheering on the Space Wolves? I want somebody to beat you. I'm cheering on the Space Wolves here. While I did own the Curse of the Wolfen book for my demons, I didn't look at the full Wolfen rules themselves yet. At the moment, I assumed my army could handle them readily. I didn't consider them much of a threat. Mistake number 1. The moment the game started, my dice handily betrayed me. I didn't get the right powers for my sorcerers save for 1, and another relegated to summoning heralds. My reserves refused to come in on time, and my opponent was rolling hot. This is very, very unusual for me, as my friends have noticed I have unnatural luck with dice, and they've checked on several occasions to make sure they aren't loaded. They never are, but for this game I am convinced Tzeentch himself had cursed my dice. My ego had been riding high before the game, and I had underestimated my opponent. It had become some plot from the Chaos Gods to make me feel exactly like a son of Prospero. When my prince met the Wolfen, I fully expected him to just turn them to mist. Not only did this not happen, they passed their toughness checks and in retaliation, shredded him into pieces. I was horrified, and then my second mistake started to kick in. You see, when I play a game, I slowly turn into a cornate person, more focused on the kill than the objectives at times. Dude, that's me, all the time. All the time. And because the Wolfen just grievously insulted me in my eyes, I resolved to throw everything into including the kitchen sink, at them. Unfortunately, their skulls were far too thick for such a thing as the sink bounced off harmlessly. Okay. The next couple of turns, my Necron's Gauss blasters barely did a thing to them as I focused fire on the blender, and I wasn't getting greater demons on the board aside from a Lord of Change. My Overlord came in, and I could only force feed him and the Lich Guard to the Wolfen. He only stalled them for a few turns as I attempted to recover, but his other flanking Wolfen units just ran by and began to shred my back line. My Night Scythe couldn't even back them up, as it was shot down by a Frostfang in a dogfight. My army was utterly obliterated, and my ego had been decisively chokeslammed into the dust. Those Wolfen scared the hell out of me, and up until 9th edition, I would flinch every time I saw some. In the comment section down below, guys, is there a unit in 40k or Age of Sigmar or whatever game you're playing, where even if you see it, you get like Vietnam flashbacks? Do you have one? Mine's Repentia. Oh god, hated them. Because in 7th edition, like a friend of mine, like he charged like 5 Repentia into 10. I think it's into like 10 Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators and swiped them out. I was like, what? You know, just what is going on there? Anyway, however, honestly, I still had immense fun with that game, in spite of my bloodlust and loathing towards those pug men. Each heart-pounding dice roll was well worth it, even if the results were generally against me. My opponent was delightfully nice, and we shared a few good laughs about what was happening on the board, and he too was also surprised how well his dice were cooperating with him that day. I am grateful for that tournament. Not only did it encourage me to collect another favourite faction of mine, but it let me take the gloves off and go all out with my armies, and gave me 2 of my favourite games that refused to leave my memory. It also taught me how to keep my ego in check and lose with grace. Now, my friend, your throat must be dry. Take another sip of your tea, as I have another small story for you, if you wish to read it as well. Do you know what? It's Friday, why not? I'll read it. This one is where I became the nightmare in a fun sense, as I emulate the most iconic part of chaos: corruption. About 5 to 6 years after my tournament loss, I decided to move across the country to move in with my girlfriend, now wife, whom I had met over the internet years prior. She would in turn introduce me to 2 of her former high school friends, who introduced me to Pokemon Tabletop United. One of them, let's call him James, was the DM and helped me set up a character and a starter Pokemon, a Larvitar, okay? Now, my wife had neglected to mention that for a time I was a competitive Pokemon player for a while and was basically a living Pokedex. So he said during the game setting up a scene, and I quote, "There is a troop of 7 Aaron, 6 of them carrying a small blue struggling round creature," unquote. Now, I was about to say something, but worry not. It wasn't metagaming, as James made it clear our characters were isekai characters, meaning they had all of our current knowledge and personalities. I snapped my fingers and said, "Oh, that's a Roggin Roller." How do people play this game with these fucking names, dude? You know what I mean? Do you know when people say, you know, they use the word gay in like a bad context, when they go, "Huh, gay," like, yeah, Roggin Roller? What? "Oh, that's a Roggin Roller," I said. He immediately whipped to stare at me and shouts, "How?" It was a "how the hell do you know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm being so vague" sort of question. As I was on the floor wheezing with my wife at this reaction, I decided this man was going to be my best friend, and I know he thought the same thing. James would then get a D&D 5e, or get me into D&D 5e, because I enjoyed the PTU so much, I was unfulfilled in a sense. While I loved 5e to the point where I now have 3 shelves of official and fan-made material, I didn't have anyone to play Warhammer with. So I thought, how dare you get me into something new that I love? So I grabbed James and my wife by the ankles and dragged them both into 40k with me in retaliation for their throwing me into D&D. It's been 7 years since then, and James has Eldar, Sisters, Iron Warriors, his main army, Man of Culture, Mechanicus and Adeptus Custodes. A good chunk of which is a massive pile of shame in his room that he slowly works on and that I help with. Needless to say, he enjoys the hobby as much as I do, and we constantly rib each other for our choices and armies. My wife, on the other hand, has gathered quite a wah to herself, and is side-eyeing Drakari or Slaaneshi demons for her second army. But those two aren't the only ones. I've also managed to drag another friend into the hobby. He uses my Tyranids and some of his own that he's brought, and we've matched up to a paint scheme he likes to create a large combined force of Hive, Fleet, or Ouroboros. And now, because of that, his wife wants to get into the game and is also eyeing Slaaneshi demons. And of course, James has also managed to start corrupting a few of his co-workers. And now my brother-in-law is eyeballing Thousand Sons as his first army. North, what have I started? Mate, you've started a gaming club, is what you've started. You've done your job. So don't worry about it. North, what have I started? I didn't have anybody near me or a hobby store to play 40k, as I tried to get some friends into it, but now it has spiraled into a decent-sized group. I fear I may be a salesman at heart. Anyway, thanks for reading my insane ramblings, and I do hope it gave you a few chuckles along the way. May the dark gods watch over you, friend. Your loyal viewer, Major. Thank you very much, man. Alright, next up. Next up is Logan, I think. Are we getting to Logan now? Yes, we are. Excellent. Hello, North. You can call me Logan. I've been listening for a while and felt it time to contribute with my hobby nightmare, born of good intentions and unfortunate timing. Hope you like how I've organised the story. I've also added some pictures that'll go along with it, if you're able to put them up, starting with my earliest 40k work to where I am now. Yeah, I couldn't... Okay, I'm going to have to admit, guys, I didn't have time with work and stuff to get all of the pictures and all of that assembled and ready to go. I think I may do a video over the weekend, maybe on Sunday, showcasing your current pictures and things like that. Actually, that sounds like a good idea. Maybe do it on a Sunday to break the week up. We'll see. Leave it with me. I've got all the pictures ready to go. They're all here. I just need to pile them into a PowerPoint presentation and start going through them on a video. That's all. It won't take me very long, but I've just not been able to find a lot of time. All right. So apologies for that, but I'm working on it. All right. The origins, Logan says. So these are the origins of his hobby nightmare. A little bit of background on my journey. I started 40k in the middle of 8th edition. I believe not long after Shadowspear came out. My buddy John got me to start collecting Space Wolves box and Fenrisian wolves for my birthday, knowing my affinity for Lycans, wolves and Norse myths, saying, "The Space Vikings riding wolves, enjoy." I had some experience already in painting from WizKids D&D minis at the local game store, so painting these slightly larger figures felt pretty good. And my slight OCD focus also came in handy for the attention to detail, and I quickly became known in my painting group as one of the 3 best painters there, next to John and our other hobby friend Fred. In these early days, I had a few experiences and trials and tribulations entering John's hobby/gaming group, including several those guys and a little local game store drama, but I think I'll leave that for a future entry. Okay. In those early times, John also recruited my best friend Bruce, who was in immediately, as he already had experience with Warhammer from his nerd-cultured college and Emperor text-to-speech device. Bruce saw how much I enjoyed painting and how good I was at it, so he asked me to paint his first Space Marines in the stylings of America, translating to having the American flag thrown upon them. As a joke, yes, one of his sergeants was painted with orange skin and blonde hair. He wasn't a fan of their playstyle, saying this funny scheme at least made him smile when he put it on the table. He soon outgrew Space Marines and moved on to the Necrons not too long after, and sold the America Marines to a new Death Watch player, who went to work repainting them. The cycle of the hobby. I started working in the gift shop of a Native American casino to fund my new hobby, and really got into the groove of living for my own happiness. Something hard to do when growing up with a dad that would favour you having a shit job with a shit paycheck over something that makes you happy, meaning my dream of writing a novel went into the shitter. I'm going to disagree there, right? Anybody can write a novel. I'm being serious. If you write 500 to 1,000 words a day, in 4 to 6 months, you've written a novel. There you go. Done. Right? If you write 500 to 1,000 words a day, in 4 to 6 months, you've got yourself a novel. You can even take weekends off. You still get a novel written. It sounds a lot harder than it is. And yes, your first novel will be shit. It will be shit. Dude, I've recently started moving away from writing stories and novels because I'm just not getting any better at it. I think I'm a really good world builder. Like, I write really good worlds, so I just focused on that. I write pretty decent tabletop rules, so I just focused on that. Do you know what I mean? So there are different ways to get your writing fix. Just figure it out, but don't walk away. You know? You get better at it the more you do it. Anyway. We enjoyed 8th edition, and I started running Wordbearers Chaos Space Marines sometime before the Psychic Awakening. Just like how life is, when you get comfortable, things start to go awry. Bruce, my friend, had to move to a city 2 hours from our town for better work, but luckily cities often also have more nerd opportunity. That city had a new Warhammer store run by a single dude without any support staff, and we'll call him Scott. Whenever I'd visit Bruce in the city, we went and talked shop with him, but there were a few quirks about Scott I couldn't lay my finger on. After finding your channel, I found out what they were. Games Workshop store management training. Nothing nightmarish, just some slight overzealous sales techniques and a standard new box set sales pitch whenever we go. But he doesn't push if people aren't interested. Despite this, he is a cool guy that loves the hobby and setting as much as we do. The next part's called Dawn of Blood. Not long after, the 9th edition came out. Whilst there's plenty to talk about during 9th, I'll mostly focus on some of the fun we had, but also where things started to go downhill sharply. After Mr. Bones' departure from Tabletop Tactics, Bruce took a shine to Khorne's Legion. He said the immense fun Bone always had playing World Eaters in his featured games, and the rumours of the incoming Codex release made him itch to spill blood for the Blood God. My best friend in the world was becoming the Khan to my Argyle Tal, and something I immensely love the irony of. That's cool, man. That's awesome. Before I continue, okay, how do I put this? How do I put this without sounding like a curmudgeonly, old man who, should really know better? I like Tabletop Tactics. I don't think it's too bad, right? But do you know the Games Workshop manager style of having fake fun and having a fake smile plastered across your face? Nearly every single one of them reminds me of that. That's why I can't watch it. Nearly every single one of them, I get like Vietnam-like flashbacks to working for Games Workshop. Like, hi, it's me, I'm going to roll some dice, ha 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 ha. That kind of thing, right? They look like they're in pain. I'm smiling. Can you see me smiling? That joke was so funny, man. Oh, like, yeah, I just can't. I just can't. Good luck to them. Good luck to them. But and also, you're a grown man, right? You're not called Spider. Sorry, I'm sorry. I know I'm such a curmudgeonly ratty old man, and I should just let people enjoy things, right? I should just shut up. But like, you're not the Spider, are you? You're some dude. Okay? Stop it. Please stop it. Today I'm going up against the Spider. No, you're not. You're not. You're going up against a guy called Dave or whatever, right? Come on, man. You're in your 30s. Grow up, right? Again, there's part of me that loves it. That's like, oh, you know, it's innocent, it's great, but like, tabletop tactics, dude, come on. I can't watch them, man. I just get flashbacks to like, you know, what you gotta do is put one hand in your pocket and then just gyrate your hips at the customer till they buy something. It's like, no, dude, stop smiling. Not everything is funny, alright? Stop. Anyway, maybe I'm the only one. Am I the only one? Let me know. Comment section, let me know. Because I feel really bad for saying that, but I just can't, man. My toes curl up whenever I watch them. But good luck to them. Hope the channel grows. Hope everything goes well for them. They've got some lovely painted armies. Good studio. It's good for the hobby. Away you go, son. You know what I mean? But it's just not for me. Anyway, before the World Eaters Codex released, we'd have a ton of fun playing our forces against each other. 9th edition breathed new life into his Necrons, being the new start. So I'm going to read that again because it's gone all jumbled up here. Before the World Eaters Codex released, we'd have a ton of fun playing our forces against each other. 9th edition breathed new life into his Necrons, being the new starting box baddies, and the Chaos Space Marine Codex release blessed word bearers and a Legion trait that really mattered. It was after the Chaos Space Marine Codex that he started playing World Eaters with their index, and whilst not perfect, he knew it was only a matter of time before his new Legion got its due, and boy did it. Take a drink, as I believe this is where things start to wear down. Okay. My job at the gift shop started to become harder. Hours were cut from slow business due to COVID, and I was making less money than I needed to properly live. I changed departments to be a slot machine technician, higher pay, 40 hours, and working with my hands for the first time in my life was something that I really enjoyed. However, I would rarely get the time to be able to recenter my mind between fixing machines and paying out jackpots. My stress built, my anxiety peaked, and I couldn't keep my irritation under control. When it started 4 months into the job, the superiors put me on mandated therapy to get my temper sorted out. Were you kicking shit out the machines? That's hilarious. Just fucking work. like, you need to go to therapy, dude. Anyway, they were probably hoping to see me get doped up, which I didn't want. But by the time of my final outburst, I knew it was something I needed to keep my job. The superiors, however, decided if 3 months of therapy wasn't enough to get his head on straight, he's not worth the hassle, and terminated me after about 7 months of work before I could speak to my therapist about being put on medication. Despite being let go in this way, I felt very lucky with how I had set up my life around this job. I was in an apartment that had decent income-based rent, and a termination meant I was able to get aid like food stamps and unemployed benefits. The apartment agency also helped me with utility checks whilst I was unemployed, but they were already made out to the utility company, so I couldn't spend it on anything else. Yeah, nor should you! Why do people who do this? Right, okay. I don't know, man. As somebody who lives in the northwest of England, I've known a lot of people on benefits, right? Okay? And the amount of people who get shitty when their money is automatically paid to the people that they owe money to. Like, dude, I know the power prices are ridiculous. I know that. But if somebody's paying that for you, right? You shouldn't be upset that they're not giving you the money so you can blow it on booze and drugs. Because they probably fucking know that's what you're going to do. Do you know what I mean? So they'd rather keep your heat on first, rather than give you the money so you can go and blow it in the pub. I'm just saying. Or on Warhammer, in your case, you know? Anyway. You know, but they were already made out to the utility company, so I couldn't spend it on anything else. Yeah, that's the point. That's the point. I don't know if it works differently in America, but over here, like, oh man, so, I don't know. I'm moving on. I was able to stay where I was living and had an easy time feeding myself on the government's dime. However, because unemployment checks count as income, I made the decision to not get it. And because my income would be zero, I had no rent to pay and $6,000 from working at Slot Tech to pay what little utility I had left over. I was careful with my budgeting, but knew I was making a net negative in my bank account, so I needed a way to make some quick money. Bruce had an idea of how I could get some extra cash from him, which leads us to the commission. Okay. It was maybe a couple of months after my termination. I'd been taking time, I thought, to get my head on straight. Food stamps and zero income rent was set, so the only thing I was really missing at that point was, well, income. I was also, frankly, starting to get bored of sitting around and existing for the sake of existing. Bruce had the solution. Paint his new World Eater army, Angron, 8-band, Berserkers, the whole lot, and get paid a cool $1,000, with monthly payments of $250, with a deadline to get them done by, say, October. It was April at the time, I think. And I got them done early. And if I got them done early, an extra $100 per month, they were done early. A sweet deal, right? A whole 6 months to get them done, and he even supplied the Citadel Red spray paint for the base coats. And at the time, it sounded like a fantastic idea. Somewhere between building the whole army and starting to meet Angron, I started hitting a slump. I think my depression about everything finally hit me. I had my plan for the army, paint characters to a high standard, and give the rest something fairly bog standard, making them look quality game pieces with a red zenithal spray on black minis, washing them with a shade, and giving them a highlight of Mephiston red. Real big contrast pieces that would look like a red and black tide of fuck you coming across the table. A feeling I knew well after several games against them. I went along with this idea before Bruce saw the quality of the armies being played at his new hobby store and said he wanted them to be more fully and traditionally painted. I believe this may have been the nail in the coffin. Somewhere between completing Angron, figuring out the Blood Ocean basing I decided to do, and getting the rest of the army spray based, I got hit with a paralysing wave of depression. The next 5 months were: wake up, look at the commissions in the hobby room, go downstairs, watch streaming on Xbox, pass out. I was paid for 3 months of work before I told him the truth, that all I had done was Angron, the troops, built and half sprayed, and told him I couldn't accept the final payment until they were done, or at least at a point worthy of the paid work. He understood and accepted, but warned me of the coming ribbing I'd be putting up with until they were done, to which I too accepted. I believe you've called this fair trauma in past tales. I don't love it, but if I told myself I didn't deserve it, I'd be lying to myself. I would take that talk from Bruce as his army that's being slacked on. However, when it came from others, it pisses me off quite a bit. Yeah, I think when I used that term of phrase, it was what was it? I can't remember. I think it was to do with my uncle, because at the time, like, my uncle is somebody who's never had kids, and he's off doing his own thing, you know. And we had a big situation with my daughter earlier on in the year, where I had to call my mum in to help me out, because, you know, we were trying to basically sort out her health issues. She had some health issues that came up, and I was trying to get them sorted. And he was saying to me, you know, things like, "Oh, you shouldn't be putting this on your mother. It's not right. You should do that to one of your family." And I was like, "Dude, I spent the last 5 or 6 years looking after your father. What are you talking about?" I will take that comment from many people. I will take that lecture from many people, but not from you. Do you know what I mean? And we had a little bit of an argument, and we didn't speak to each other for a little bit. But it was fair. I was fair to him. I was like, no, I will take that from many people. But that is pot kettle fucking black, my friend. Right? You are literally the pot calling the kettle black. Sorry, no. I will take that lecture from many people, but not from you. And I think you're the same way here, is that you'll take that lecture from Bruce, but not from anybody else. I get that. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yeah. And by the way, my uncle's an amazing guy. He's an amazing guy. He just had a bit of a slip of the tongue because of his own concern and things like that. But still, at the time, with me dealing with loads of stress, I was like, yeah. As you do, you know. She's fine, by the way. Daughter's fine. Cheeky as always. Running about the place. Just, yeah, she's great. She's awesome. So don't worry about that. Anyway. While trying to get back on track of the commission, I started playing Age of Sigmar. I split, traded, and sold my 40k Demons army to build up my Bone Reapers, start Slaves to Darkness, and fund the Seraphon range refresh, and do everything I could to put myself back in the mood of the hobby. It worked, and I even got a new job that my dad would be proud of. I went to my first 40k tournament, which as I expected, wasn't for me, but I was glad for the experience, more or less. I've also gone to some 2v2 tournaments that have been a lot more chill and enjoyable, and slightly more casual than 1v1 2,000 point games. I think I'll put in my tournament stories later, as there have been a couple of things that happened at those, and it'd be fun to get your thoughts on them. So, the rest. After I got a part-time job at a UPS store, do not recommend, they're worse than Games Workshop, I've been able to make forward progress again on the World Eaters, at first putting entirely too much work into rank and file units for £1,000, but now, having a lot more streamlined system, I can actually work with and enjoy. The UPS store didn't last long. They used me as an extra body, which is fair enough I suppose, for the holidays, and found 3 stupid reasons to fire me as soon as it calmed down again. Well, since then, I've been able to find work back at the casino for a hotel night clerk. Plenty of dead time to work on hobbies, commission, mental health breaks, and write up my experiences to be read by a charming bloke from across the pond. Cheers, man. Has it been perfect? No. But life really is. Am I happy? Well, I'm getting there, I think. As for now, though, I have more World Eaters to paint. What's your thoughts now this is gone and how I could have handled it? I look forward to hearing this as I spend my nights painting while listening to your channel. Hope you and your listeners enjoyed it and that you all have a great day. Okay, yeah, I can't really add much to it, mate. I think what you're doing, you are essentially a gopher. You're what we call in the UK a gopher. And it's not the animal. It's a go for this, go for that, right? As in, you know, I'll go for it. I'll do it, you know. You're one of those guys who will do any job. Just pay me some money and I'll do the job, right? What I reckon you should do is maybe, if you're enjoying the night clerk job, mate, just do it. Keep doing it, you know, it's fine. But if maybe look for something else to do with your hands that you enjoy, like being a gardener or a bricklayer or something like that. I don't know. Just something that maybe gives you more joy. But if you're earning money, you're doing well, you're keeping your head above water, and your shall we say mental health is trending in the right direction, keep doing what you're doing. You know? And give yourself some grace. For God's sake, I think we've all been there, man. We've all been at the bottom of the barrel. We've all been there where things aren't going well. One thing I will say to you that I think may stick with you, and it should, is that when you wanted to start new parts of your hobby, you put loads of effort in to making sure you had money available to start that hobby. Like your Seraphon and all these other things, right? That's fine, but if you put that amount of effort into sorting your financial life out, you'll be doing very well. To the point where you can probably afford your own place to live, right? In terms of, you know, actually getting your own place bought eventually in 5 to 10 years, right? Have a long-term goal. Where are you going to be in 10 to 15 years? Have that goal in your mind and work towards it. It's a very, very, very powerful thing, you know? Understand what it is. It's just a vague goal that's there that you want to hit, you know? For me, I had an amount of savings in my bank account that I wanted to hit for, you know, doing things with the house and with my daughter and things like that, and my grandpa and stuff, right? So yeah, that was mine. And so for you, maybe have a long-term goal like that, an adult one in your head that you can go on with. All right? Awesome. Anyway, thank you for sending that in. That was lovely. Mark Rowe says, "Hey North, firstly, thank you for all you do and all that. I just wanted to get that out the way. This is a nightmare about a relationship that breaks down, but also how Warhammer had a lot to do with the final explosive argument within it. I met a woman who was to become my wife at the age of 23, or was it 24? Anyway, I'm 28 now. Let's call her Debbie. I met her when out and about with friends, and we hit it off really quickly. She seemed interested in all my hobbies, and when we eventually started dating, she wanted to get involved with things like gaming, which was fine by me. She always seemed a little weirded out by Warhammer though, even when I acted as if it was the most normal thing in the world, which it is. She just didn't seem to click with it, which is totally fine. Yeah, it is. Not everyone's into it, and you did the right thing, you know? If you look at Warhammer as in, you know, listen, I'm passionate about it, I think it's really cool. You can like it or don't, but I like it. Right? If you talk to a woman like that about Warhammer, she goes, oh, okay, fine. You know? It's only weird and shameful if you make it weird and shameful. Don't be embarrassed of being into Warhammer. Fuck 'em. Moving on. The issue started to come only after the ring was placed on her finger and we got engaged. Up until this point, we had been in a normal, stable relationship that everybody seemed to think was idyllic from the outside. And if I'm being honest, it was. We went on trips and supported each other through thick and thin. It was just so strange to me that this woman changed so completely once the ring was on her finger. Okay. All of a sudden, almost anything that I did away from either work or out with her was a waste of my time. I would get guilted into dropping almost all of my hobbies as she made me feel like an absolute gutter trash for wanting any time alone. For her hobbies were sitting in front of the couch with me, nearby, and watching TV. That was it. Oh, and taking expensive trips with me so she could go shopping. So, why put up with this behaviour? Well, it's simple. I still yearned for the early days of the relationship, and since those were so good, I thought I must be the one who's being toxic. Yeah, you gaslight yourself. That's the issue here. The thing was, eventually my hobby friends started to show concern that I was never around them anymore since getting engaged. This is important, lads. If one of your friends goes AWOL after getting into a new relationship, and we are about 3 to 6 months into the relationship, do an intervention. Go to them and invite them out, and if they keep saying they cannot, ask them if there is an issue between you. If there is not one, then their partner is the issue. My friends did this to me, and it was actually a grand tournament that forced our relationship onto the rocks, from which it would never recover. You see, I had told Debbie that I wanted to go to the grand tournament with my friends, which was in London, and she just had to get with the programme because I was going either way, whether she liked it or not. I stood my ground. I was not rude about it, but nice and firm. She went along with it, and I started prepping for the big day, thinking we finally had a breakthrough moment in our relationship. I got a 2,000 point list of Black Templars down from my collection and painted them to a standard that I was really happy to show off. Eventually, Debbie asked if she could come with me to London to do some shopping, and whilst initially I was really hesitant, I thought, you know what? She is letting me go after all. This is all about compromise, so fine, and I let her come with. This was a mistake. Okay, before we go on, I want to make something. Want to make a point here. One sec. So, lads, again, this is what toxic women do if they're being toxic. All right, listen to me now. What they do, if you've got a sign of contention between you, there's a bit of contention going on between you where she says, look, I want to do this, and you say, well, I want to do that. She wants to do A, you want to do B, right? Cool. Well, she will say something like, she'll moan and moan and moan until you say, look, why don't we do 60% of A and 40% of B? So that means, you know, you as the woman, you still get what you want more, but I get some of what I want. She'll go, okay, fine, you know. But then eventually she'll say, well, it's really important to me, so since we're doing 60-40, do you mind if we do 70-30? Because, you know, it means a lot to me. And after, because some time's passed, you go, okay, and fine, 70-30. I'm still getting a bit of what I want, but, you know, at least I'm keeping her happy, you know. And then some way down the line, she goes, well, if we're doing 70-30, we may as well do 80-20, because if we do 80-20, then I can do this, that, and the other, and, you know, we may as well just do that. And you go, yeah, okay, whatever, you know. And then she goes, well, since we're 80%, do you want to just do what I was saying originally anyway? Because, you know, I think that's the best way to do it. And then you go, oh, okay then, whatever. And we end up doing exactly what she wanted to do the entire fucking way. You know, happened to me all of the time in previous relationships. All of the time. It's something that my missus doesn't do, thankfully. But all of the time in previous relationships, this would happen absolutely all of the time. You'd argue, you'd compromise, and then end up doing what she wanted to do in the first place. This is a tactic they do all the fucking time. Men aren't long-term manipulators, by and large. You know what I mean? Some of us are, don't get me wrong. You know, there are psychos out there, but most men are not long-term manipulators. They're not. Unfortunately, most women seem to be. Especially when ones I've gone out with. They do this all the time. They play the long game. And they get what they wanted in the end. I'm willing to bet here, this woman is going to try and do that with the GT, with the Grand Tournament, right? She's already got what she wanted, that she gets to go along. Now, because she's gone along, she now gets to, you know, that's 60-40. She's getting what she wanted. 60-40, right? She'll then go away and start doing things, you know, throwing a dummy out the pram, you know, wanting to do this and go there and take up all of his time so that she gets a trip away with him and he doesn't get to go to the tournament. Right? Do you know what I mean? It'll escalate. This is how they do it. See what I mean? So she injects herself into your trip, and then when you're there, she starts to, like, say, we need to spend more and more and more time together to the point that you're only actually at the fucking tournament for an hour. Do you know what I'm saying? So she gets a nice trip away. She gets what she wanted, and you don't get what you wanted. This is what they do. Okay? Let's read on, shall we? On the morning of the Grand Tournament, on our drive down to London, she came up with every excuse to not get in the fucking car. She was ill. She was on her period. She tried all sorts. When I said that it was fine and she could stay behind, no problem, she got mad at me and got in the car. Sigh. Yep. Open manipulation. Open manipulation. You know what this achieves? I'm telling you now what this achieves. One, she either forces you to stay at home with her, so she doesn't have to go to London and to the GT, or number two, she now gets a plausible excuse to pull you away from the event when you're there. I'm ill. I'm tired. Right? Yeah? Dude, I played these games before. Doesn't wash with me. Right? When we get down there, she kept asking me when the GT was finished, so we could go and do adult stuff, quote unquote. And no, not the good kind. Things like going to restaurants and stuff like that. It really started to grate on me. When I was at the GT with my friends, her phone calls and texts were nearly constant, asking me what I was up to, when I would be done, shit like that. She literally ruined the entire day to the point that one of my friends, Mike, told me to get my fucking act together and tell her to piss off when I was with my friends. That she was crossing all sorts of boundaries. Mike is not a guy who says things like this usually. For him to snap at me made me realise and kind of see through the veil. I was unhappy in the relationship and had been unhappy for some time. I left the tournament early to go and pick Debbie up, as she was angry that the tournament had gone on until 4 PM, despite me telling her it finished at 6 PM and she'd need to entertain herself until then. When I saw her angry face waiting for me at our hotel, I almost fucking lost it with the concierge nearby. I walked over to her, informed her that the marriage was off, and that I would allow her to stay in our apartment, rent-free, until she got herself on her feet. I paid for the hotel and for her train back home, and called Mike to see if I could stay in a spare room whilst I got another place nearer the city. Debbie did not react to this well. She screamed and shouted outside of the hotel, fuming and punching me so much that the hotel security had to get her off of me so I could pay for our stay. Dude, Just reverse the sexes in that situation. You're in jail. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Reverse the sexes in that situation. You are in jail, my friend. She headed home on the train, telling my family the news before I could and accusing me of abandoning her in the city. Fortunately, they had grown wary of her games too. They asked me for clarification and I told them the whole shebang, and they promptly stopped taking her calls. I got texts from her brothers threatening to beat me up if I ever turned up to my apartment to see Debbie again. You know, the apartment I was paying for. Okay then. Since that was the case, I stopped paying the rent for her and sent these texts to the police. That is when the text asking me to return to her started, that she missed me, all of that stuff. At this stage, I had another place just outside of London sorted out. My job is as an architect, and I essentially draw cool buildings for a living, but I'm paid very well for doing relatively little, so this is how I was able to afford all of this. The one thing I wanted from the apartment, though, was the rest of my Black Templar army. I had 2,000 points on me, but I'd collected about 20,000 points over the years. It will not surprise you to know that after a huge swathe of text and abuse and a drunken voicemail from Debbie, she told me she had sold all of my Warhammer to pay the rent on her apartment, since I wouldn't help her pay for it. I told her to move out and to never contact me again, or I would report her to the police for stealing my property and selling it. I then blocked her number, and her in general, from all of my social media. I never heard from Debbie again or her family. I dodged a massive bullet. As far as I'm aware, she stayed in the apartment for another 6 months before renting a much smaller place. The hobby was the thing that basically threw me out of the way of this oncoming relationship train. Also, I am now single in the city, but most of my friends live elsewhere. What advice would you give for going out and meeting women when alone and not with friends around me? Thanks, bro. Mark. Dude, you had a lucky escape. That was a lucky escape. Very lucky. Okay. Meeting women on your own. Okay. So first of all, one thing not to do, okay, but everybody does it. If you can go out straight from work, do so, because you're already in a hopped up sociable mood. You know, you're ready to go out and socialize. You know what I mean? You're in a social energy, is what I'm saying. One thing to do, if you do go home though and you get showered and you get changed and you chill for a bit, then make sure on the way to town, on the way to the city, you call your parents or your brothers or sisters or friends or whatever, you connect with them and you talk to them over the phone. You get yourself into a chatty mood. You start to talk to people, right? When you go to, say, you know, get your ticket for the train, have a bit of banter with the person behind the thing, giving you a ticket. Talk to people around you. Make sure you're in a talky mood before you go out on your own, right? Cool. Secondly, when you walk into a place, right? Walking into a room and you look around the room and you see women about, make your approach very, very, very quickly. Do not go out, okay, with the motive of getting laid or getting a relationship or even getting a girl's number. Go out because you want to make new friends who are in the city, right? Okay, that's what you do. You walk in, and when you look around you, right, and if you see a gaggle of women, and you will do, right, if you see a group of women around and the drinks are flowing and they're having a fun and they're giggling and laughing, right, go over to them and say, hi girls, my friends have kind of stood me up. Can I sit here for a while? Right? They will literally to a woman go, yay! You're right, or something like that. They will adopt you like a long lost child. Sometimes they'll say, I'd rather we didn't, and then be cool with it. Say, thanks, no problem. I'm going to go find some friends somewhere. And then walk around and do it again to somebody else. Because you're being honest, right? You're not really. You're never going to meet your friends. But you know what I mean? Your friends kind of had stood you up because they weren't available to go out with you, right? So you just say, yeah, my friends have stood me up, guys. Do you mind if I sit here for a while? Sit down with them. And when they talk to you, right, let's assume that they've invited you to sit down, which most women will do. I've done this myself loads of times in the past. Most groups of women will do. They will invite you in, right? You sit down, and they'll ask you questions about you. They'll be like, okay, well, what's going on? And you say, look, I'm looking to meet somebody, like a partner or a girlfriend, and that's not what I'm here for, don't worry. I was here to meet friends, but like, you know, I'm not having that much success, to be honest with you. Most of my friends live out of town, and blah, 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 you know, and you explain your situation. They will all be like, ah, you know, and either one of them will take a shine to you, because, you know, you're a confident guy who's come over and has to sit down and you bought a drink or two and you're having a good laugh, or women, after a few drinks, will want to set you up with people. They will go and pull women over to their group just to talk to you. And they will say shit like, oh, this is Dave. Yeah, you know, he's got a good job. He's this and that. Da, da, da. He's such a nice guy. Dude, there is no better kryptonite for other women when you go out than other women. If you're already sitting there surrounded by women, having fun, having a laugh, right? Because they're now your mates, because you're treating them like one of the lads, right? There's no more kryptonite to other women around. They'll go, who the hell is that guy? And why is he talking to those women? Why do they seem to like him very much? And if one of those women is interested in you, and one of the women from your group goes over and pulls them over, dude, you're already 3/4 of the way there. That's what I would do. And in fact, I have done it several times in the past. It works. It works. Right? If you couple that with all the other advice I give you, making sure you're well groomed, well presented, you know, making sure you're getting reps in, you're talking to everybody all of the time when you're going out, trying to have a lovely sociable time, mate, you're going to be the belle of the ball. You'll be fine, right? It's not easy. It's not easy, but, you know, that's where we are in life. So that's what I would do if I were you. I would go out, I'd chill. I wouldn't go out trying to get laid. I'd go out trying to make female friends. Find one group of them, be honest with them, tell them why you're there, tell them you've been stood up by your friends, and you want to sit down somewhere and have a little chat. They'll invite you in, and if they don't, go and find another group to do it with. You don't look weird then, because if you've been honest and earnest, even if they say no, you go, no problem, girls, not a problem, and you go to another group, maybe go to a group of lads after that, and sit down with them, because the lads will be like, yeah, mate, no problem, you know, they will do that, and they will invite you in, no problem, right? So, that's what I would do. Just go out, start with a group of women, and if they invite you in, brilliant. And they don't have to be, you know, amazing lookers. You know, just go over and meet people. Go and sit with the women there, and if they say no, go to another group of lads. What you don't want to do is go around the bar from group of women to group of women getting turned down. That's what you don't want, right? Go to a bar, sit with a group of women, right? If they don't want you there, or they say no, we'd rather not, thanks. The next port of call is either a group of men or leave, go to the next bar, right? That's what you do. Anyway, I love you a long time. I will speak to you either on Sunday or tomorrow. We will see. Either Sunday or Monday. We will see. Sunday for your lovely bits of, shall we say, your pictures from what we've had over the past few weeks. Or if I don't have time to do that, it will be on Monday. But I'll also, of course, do those picture videos very, very, very soon, all right? I love you a long time. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll speak to you then. Have a good one. Bye now.